Hello, hello. Good afternoon. I almost said evening there. Good afternoon, everyone. How are you today? This is a special program, so I'm just going to wait a few seconds for people to start coming in. I know you're just getting notifications right now, so I would just like to say good afternoon. I'm not saying your names, so I can't say your names individually, but I miss saying that. But as soon as I can see your names, I will say hello to you. So good afternoon. Today's program, or should I say interview, is with Dr. Sandey and the OTUNBA of Heritage TV. I will allow him to introduce himself. Actually, he will, not because I would allow him. He will introduce himself in a short while. But this is a special interview with Dr. Sandey. So I'm just here, maybe as a moderator or ask some of the questions as well. But OTUNBA will be the person that is asking most of the questions. So I'm really looking forward to this. It's going to be an exciting one this afternoon. I don't know what the questions are. Dr. Sandey don't know what the questions are. It's going to be interesting. I just want to sit here and hear as much as possible. So guys, I'll ask you to invite as many people as possible because it's going to be a great one. It's probably one in how many years of an interview like this. So please guys, invite people. The 3 ways that I know that of inviting people on Facebook, you can do that by tagging. Tagging is really good because the people will get a mention and they would wonder who's mentioning my name and where, and then join you. And there are another way which you can invite people, especially because they feel good about that. You're inviting somebody to join you to watch a program. And there's another way, which is you can just share onto your page. So number 1, tag. You use the symbol that you use for email, and the person's name, no space at all. I saw somebody did it so excellently last night during the Sunday's broadcast. So guys, with no space at all in between. That's what you do in order for people to join you as a tag. And then the second way is by inviting people individually. So just click on invite. You can invite friends, family, you can invite groups as well. So invite as many people as possible. And the final way is just to share onto your page. So share, share, share. I'm really looking forward to this, and the person that will be interviewing Dr. Sandey mostly is OTUNBA OLABODE OSENIE. If you want to find him on Facebook, you can do so now so that you can know his pedigree. He's a broadcaster himself, and he has done this so many times. He's in touch with Dr. Sandey, he's here in Dr. Sandey's house, and he's going to ask any question that he wants. So this is a really grilling time, I think he's going to be, because I know him, I know the 2 gentlemen, and they're forced on their own to reckon with. So I'm really privileged to be here right now. So thank you guys for sharing, and thank you for inviting other people to join. So I hope a lot of people have joined us now. I cannot see, but I would check in a few seconds. But before I do so, I would like the camera to be turned to OTUNBA first, and then to Dr. Sandey. Okay?
Oh, thank you very much, Maya, for this very elaborate, long, but short introduction. My name is OTUNBA OLABODE OSENIE of Heritage Television UK. I've been in this business for a while, and it's a great honor for me. The people I've interviewed, they're all the same. But my questions are always different. And I choose my question based on my knowledge of the people, of the person I want to interview. Because again, some people will say I don't want to come on that, because my main program on heritage is one-on-one with OTUNBA who. And it's been like the people that come, they say, you are grilling us too much, and I say, that's what I do. Grilling you too much is not negative. I will ask all the questions I believe will be very good for our viewers and to be insight into you so people can get to know you better. So today, I'm highly honored, privileged to have a man who has been reshaped, who has been living in Europe for the last 30 years. And I'm talking about one of the men of God, Pastor Dr. Sandey Adelaja. So it's my pleasure having you on one-on-one with OTUNBA.
Thank you, sir.
Now, the thing is, let's start this way. Mayowa said in her introduction that she will be moderating, and she might also have a question for Dr. Adelajah as time goes on. But let me start by asking Dr. Adelajah to introduce himself to us and let us know who is Dr. Adelajah, Sandey Adelajah.
Well, like the name suggests, my name is Sandey Adelajah. I am the founder of the Embassy of God Church here in Kyiv, Ukraine. I'm originally Nigerian, but I've been living in the former Soviet Union now for the past 30 years. Yeah, basically, that's it.
That would take me straight. I will zoom straight to the first question. Judging by your age, you are over 50 now.
Yep, just clock 50 this year.
So, if you have spent 30 years in the Soviet and the new and the old one,
Yeah.
you are now a citizen of Ukraine.
Not a citizen, no, I maintain my Nigerian citizenship.
But then the substantial part of your life is spent here.
Yeah, more than enough.
That means, exactly. So that means you're 20 over there and 30 here.
Yeah, 19, not less than 20 over there in Africa.
Okay. So you now having not two lives, one life in two different countries. Two different
Continents, yeah.
continents and cultures and everything.
Yes.
I can share also with you that I left Nigeria in 1970 and I first went to Germany. So I lived in Germany for many years. I went to school there and came back, and now I'm a resident and citizen of UK. So I know exactly how you can feel when you divide your number of years on that, two different cultures. How do you find the way what do you want to say about this country?
I think one of the greatest blessings that has happened to me in my life is the fact that I was able to travel out of the country into another culture. There are a lot of things to learn in other cultures, and especially if you have the wisdom to live not among your people, not just living in a different country, but maintaining your culture. You know, when I go to England, I see a lot of people who don't live in the United Kingdom, but they actually live among their people. They still maintain the African culture, and it's much more like they never traveled anyway. It's like they never even had an experience of living abroad. They just had very, very cool experience. But in my own case, I detached almost from my culture, so much that I forgot my native language. I forgot how to speak Yoruba, even though I never spoke any other language apart from Yoruba when I was back in Africa. But I came here and I began to live among people of other cultures, both Eurasians, Ukrainians, and people from different countries. And then I began to work with them fully without even meeting anybody who could speak Nigerian or Yoruba language. But then that afforded me with the privilege of knowing how things are done from the mind of Europeans. And so I could learn directly from them, and I could, take the best of their practices, mix it with the best of my African culture, cultural tradition and upbringing, and then come forward with a wisdom that is helping me now to do what I'm doing in life.
Again, I also want to share with you and our viewers that when I was going to Germany, some of my friends in the 60s are saying, German, they speak another language, they speak English. I said, well, look, I'm going on an adventure. And truly and honestly, when I go to Germany, the first thing that I have to deal with, is the language. Because you cannot do anything without speaking the language. Yeah, some of them will say, do you speak English? They will say, a little, but a little was not enough for me to transact or to do business. So I know where you're coming. And I've also seen a couple of your works, whatever, that they're mostly written in is it Ukrainian or whatever language?
Russian, Ukrainian.
Russian, Ukrainian. And I is just fascinating. But before I go to your work, again, I do not need to introduce you as a pastor. The whole world, to a great extent, know that you are a pastor. Can you tell us a little bit about your work as a pastor in theology?
Yes, I got converted to Christianity, to active Christian lifestyle when I was 19. Just a few months before I left Nigeria. I grew up as an Anglican,
Okay.
Traditionally, but that really never, it never awakened my interest to Christianity as such. I was just like a regular traditional Anglican believer, going to church there. But then, before I left the country, I was watching a certain preacher from Africa, and I got convicted because my sister had been talking to me about Christ before then. So 6 months before I left Nigeria, I got saved, and so I never went to any theological school or anything. But I left Nigeria 6 months after my salvation, came to the former Soviet Union, and I only had my Bible with me. So because there were no churches, there were no theological centers, no pastors, no religious centers. I mean, this was it was the first atheist country in the world, so they didn't believe in Christ. And so I needed to really seek God for myself, and that's probably one of the best things to happen to me, because that enabled me to really seek God, to discover God for myself. So as a result, I had a series of encounters with God, and less than 10 years later, I had started the Embassy of God Church, which when I was 27, and by the time I was 33, it had become the largest single congregation in Europe. So by the age of 33, I built the largest congregation in Europe, and evangelical, and with 99% of the members being Russians, Ukrainian, Jews, or people who live in this area, white Caucasians.
Are you saying to me and to our viewers that it's so easy to convert atheist people, because the general notion of the other part of the world, especially when it comes to Russian, is like they don't believe in.
Yes, about 80%. 80%.
And you say now you succeeded in converting substantial part of them, of the people.
Yeah. Maybe over 90% of our members will be people who are former atheists, or people who never believed in God. So maybe 98%. So it was not easy, but because of the training, that's the good thing in you going to study with them in their university, studying their courses, their subjects. So I studied atheism, scientific atheism it's called, as a subject. And by studying that, it enabled me to be able to confront and be able to challenge their belief system. I also studied their philosophy, Marxist, Leninist philosophy. So I studied that. That also made me to be able to understand their mindset and to be able to address them. Then I spoke their language. I studied their literature. I knew exactly where they're coming from. So I was able to present my argument. That's one of the reasons probably that has made my presentation of the gospel a little bit different from what people say in Africa. In Africa, people are shouting and screaming and jumping, and I can do that too, but in Europe, you don't convince people with that. They think you are inferior. They think you are not serious. You want to impress them by emotion. That's called manipulation. So instead of trying to impress people or convert people through your emotions and your sweating, that is viewed as primitive here. Not just in the former Soviet Union, even to any white European, that is seen as primitive. So for you to convert, either they are atheists or they are just agnostics or they are just normal white Europeans, you need to have your facts in place. You need to have your arguments, and you must be strong in logical reasoning. You must be strong in critical thinking, analytical thinking, and intellectual curiosity.
All these qualities stand you in good stead.
Well,
because you are able to go out there, and from your account, you have trained yourself to be a theologist, because you say you come into a country where there's no school of theology. So all this put together is an advantage. And also you're able to say that because of the education you have, that you have made up your mind that you want to go to the bottom of the causes of why some people believe there's no almighty, there's no creation. And because we find the truth, so you are able to sell it, you are able to export it to others, and that is, well, I must congratulate you on that, because we have this problem of other people not wanting to sell the redeemed manual to their followers. What they do is is a business for me, and is it a business for you? You in the business of converting people from atheism to, do you see it as a business, or how did you see it?
No, it cannot be a business, because so if I were to choose business, I would have been doing other things and maybe we were doing better. I'm an Ijebu man, so Ijebu people, they are known to be shrewd people, especially in business. So I would have been doing well in business myself. But apart from business, I had an opportunity to go and work in Switzerland after I finished, because I finished with distinction, and a first class distinction. And I had the best result in the history of the university, the last 25 years of the history of the university. And then I could also go to Ireland. So I had two options: to go to Ireland to work in a union of journalism there, and same thing in Switzerland. But because this was a calling, I knew and I was convinced that God was calling me to sacrifice everything and start out in ministry. So this to me is a matter of calling, and it's a matter of sacrifice. It's a lifestyle of sacrifice. So it's not business related at all. Later on in life, I discovered that because I was struggling so much that I was not going to limit myself just to preaching the gospel, that I should actually get myself educated in other areas and spheres of life, including business. So eventually I learned a lot of money and how money works. I discovered later on that life is based on principles. And just as I'm successful as a pastor, I could also train myself to be successful as a business guy. And because I was hearing a lot of noise and a lot of accusations on towards the pastors that they were using the church money and things like that, I didn't want to be in that category. I wanted to make myself different. I didn't want to be taking money from the church or living off the church. So I had to go and learn how money works and start doing some investment to get myself into a place where I could have enough money and have enough, and not to ever depend on the church or congregation or offering. That's why most of my business I don't collect offerings, because I have my own way of making my own money.
Wonderful. I also remember when I decided to go and study law at the age of 49, I have to do many capping in the night. So I wasn't relying on it because I have nobody sending me money. So I also understand where you're coming from. Now, business of day to day. You've done so much, and what I was first asked to do is to go online and Google, especially find out everything about you. And part of what I've noticed, I can see the structure of a man who had put so many things in place. Because the people that know me...
If you go on Google, that's not the first thing you're going to see. The first thing you're going to see are the scandals and the accusations. If those are the first thing, because that's what is interesting to people. You have to be curious and you have to be detailed to go into the real stuff and to find the structures.
With the time permit, we might come to that. Okay. Otherwise, we want to look at the substance. We want to look at the things that are very crucial, very important, that can be beneficial to millions of people we are talking about.
Okay.
Let me take you through the structure I'm talking about. I look at your blog and I say, wow, this is massive. There's so many things you can learn, you can see about your personality and also about your ministry and also about your membership. They were not decoration. They were just like written. It wasn't things you put together there to impress anybody. Were you trained from home, or is it through your education that you come to find out that anything anybody wants to do in order to be successful, you must put a strong structure in place.
Yes, I learned that in the process of life. First of all, when I came to the former Soviet Union, I discovered that this was a system that is well, put out into systems and structures, and that well-regimented society. But I didn't know how that works. I didn't get to know what are the secrets behind it. But when I started our church, I discovered that between when the church was 7 people to when it was 100, I was doing very well. My charisma was enough to carry 100 people along. But when the church exceeded 100 figure, like 200, I began to struggle because I could no more remember everybody. I could no more call everyone. I could no more touch everybody. So that was when I began to come to the reality that because when we were 200, we became stagnated. And then I knew I needed to put some structure. So I put some structure. We went from 200 to 500. When we got to 500, that structure that outlived itself, we became stagnated again. Then I discovered that, oh wow, so I need to keep on growing in the science of building structures and systems. So when I put in another structure, then the church went to from 500 to 1,000. Then when we were 1,000, we were stagnated again. Then I knew that I needed a bigger structure. So as I was learning that, okay, your charisma or your gift could attract people, but for you to maintain them, you will need to learn the skills of building systems, structures, and maintenance and management and things like that. So I set out intentionally to study that and to grow in that. I discovered that from where I was coming from, if my own church was even bigger than my village. So nothing to manage when I was back in Nigeria. So, but I also discovered that few people were good, especially from where I was coming from in Africa. Few people were good in maintenance, in structure, in system, in management, in processes. So I told myself that I'm going to make it my strength. I'm going to make building systems one of the strongest qualities and skills that I will acquire. So I bought all the books I could read. There were managerial books, there were sociology books, there were political books. So I started studying even this country I was in, industrialization, industrial economy. I just decided to educate myself big time. When I find out that I'm weak in an area, I make it my strongest point. So that's what I did.
Dr. Adelaja, I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Have you ever think of what other people that say that I was called, I had a dream, there's this white man, a big man with a white wing and all that kind of thing, woke me up. And when I opened my eyes, I was like in a big white palace. And so he told me, I didn't see the face very well because I couldn't look him in the face. But all what I got was he said, Hashim, go out there, start ministering to people. But then again, even if that were to be true, today we see so many ministers. We see so many so-called men of God. For me, I'm a believer, I'm not a churchgoer, but I can see clearly there is an element of mockery where you see some people entering arena as a boxer, or some people entering the stadium because in the name of their pastors, and at the end of the day, the ultimate in their mind is how to sustain their lifestyle. It's nothing more. Because when I look back at my little understanding of Bible and Quran, that the man called Jesus, he wasn't so flamboyant. He wasn't really after everybody's little patrimony, collect it and use it. He has always been a kind of a leader, a kind of a teacher, a spiritual person wanting to be within these people? How close are you to your followers?
First of all, I would like to say, yes, I had some sort of experience and encounter, but I like to de-emphasize it, because if you begin to tell everybody that you are called special, and then you are trying to tell other people that if they didn't have that experience, that they're inferior to you. So even though I have the experience, I mention it when it comes, but I try to play down it, because we just need to believe him, and to believe the Bible, to believe, and do what is right. So, what I'm seeing in the body of Christ today, especially in Africa, well, I will understand why you would say it's more like a mockery. Even though I would not agree that most of these pastors, what is on their mind is sustenance of their well-being. I think maybe not
more of the lifestyle.
More of the lifestyle.
Because where I'm coming from is
it's a lifestyle thing.
Because when I look at the some of these big pastors or bishops that paraded themselves with what they have and what they use, and when you look at the cost and the cost that can be effectively used or more prudently to support the ordinary people where the money is coming from.
Vulnerable,
yeah. To park a private jet in any of the terminals is a lot of money, even per hour. So you now have somebody with 4. You now have somebody that's do so many things that is, and for me, it's Antichrist. Not when you kill somebody is Antichrist. Antichrist will come from different formats. So that's exactly what I'm asking you. You started by saying you started with 7 people, and then it goes to 100, and up to that time you can remember their names.
Yes.
I can imagine. I'm not going to ask you whether you can remember the name of millions of people who are your followers today. No. It's not going to be possible. But I still want to say people who are still very close to you. Are you close to them, and how are you close to them?
Well, I discovered that when our church grew exceedingly big, and I couldn't, of course, follow or remember everybody, it was impossible. I discovered that by default, I also became distant from the people, not because I wanted it, even though I am a people person, but because there were just too many people, I became distant from people. So what I did was, when my wife was saying it was time to get a house, and she was dreaming of a 5-bedroom house, where 4 would be for our family, and then we have 1 room for the guests. That was our dream of a house. But what I had, because I'm a people person, and I always say, Pastor, I'm a princess, if we're ever going to get a house, I cannot imagine myself just living with my family, that's all. I would like to, I believe that everything I have and everything I've got is for me to be a blessing to somebody. So I would rather go for this other option, whereby I will get a house or build a house where 10% of it is for me and my family, but 90% of the house is for anybody that wants to come and spend time with us. So that is what the difference will be. So this house right now, you see that I and my family were 1 floor, and then the rest of the house is for anybody. Maybe they are my visitors, maybe they are just regular members of the church, anybody that just want to spend the weekend here. So that is one of the ways that I decided to break that gap between the clergy and between the pastor and the laity. So and that way people could come and actually live with me. That's number 1. Number 2, I also started doing a training that we decided to call it. It's a retreat format of training where people could come and stay over with me for a few days. So we started doing that every weekend. We will get anybody willing from the church to come and study, and instead of just being with me in this church where the congregation is so big, they will never ever be able to come close to me. They could decide to come and visit my house, so they will stay here in my house from Thursday to Sunday, and we will go through the training where they could get to know me. So this is one of the those are some of the few things that I was able to do to eliminate that gap between the laity and the clergy.
I want you to do a quick, a cursory look at figures. Might be difficult to know how many followers you have, but how many people have you successfully trained?
Well,
maybe people doing the job when you are not in Ghana or when you are not in Korea, because I checked you out and there's so many branches you have. So how many people, how many clergymen are we talking about that are now representing not your interest, but the interest of your ministry?
Well, basically, people who have gone through what we call the HMT training, we have trained, just in the last 5 years, we've trained, these are not just church members, regular people come to church. I mean, these are people who have come to live with me, to stay with me. We've trained 6,000 people.
6,000 people.
Those are the ones who have actually come to live with me in my house.
Impressive.
So they are now everywhere, continuing the work. And the way our church is built is such that I try to run away from the hierarchy that I saw in Africa. Because what I've seen in Africa is that when you are the founder of the church or the senior pastor or the bishop or the GO, you are kind of like a mini God status. That is the kind of status that they give you, like almost like a mini God. So what I did is that when our church was like 20,000 people, I broke it down. And the principle is that if you have been serving here and if you are gifted and you are called, you feel you are called, go and find your calling. But a few of you might be called into ministry. If you are called into ministry, I break the church down. I say, go call the church anything you want to call it. Register it under your own name. I just give you autonomy. I give everybody autonomy. Everybody can. So I don't know how much money that comes to the church. You don't need to give me anything. You don't need to put my name there. You don't need to. I don't even need to go there. But we still together as a family in a kind of network where if you want, you can be there. If you don't want, you might not be there. But everybody, every church we have is independent. So it's not like a single hierarchy that is meant, like a Superman.
Like some other organizations.
Yeah, it's not like a corporation, like a business corporation or something. Everybody is independent. That has to be a style that we have here. And I want to be able to introduce something similar to that in Africa. I don't plan to start a church in Africa, but if anything I'm going to do, I want to make sure that I introduce that concept of independence, raising people and not looking forward to gaining something from them, or building an empire out of them, or building a corporation to feed yourself out of it. If you are really gifted, you will be able to sustain yourself.
Before I leave the ministry, I also want to allow my wife to chip in if she has anything to say. This won't go away because I also have been witness to the level, the explosion, and what is going on in the churches. When we see a lot of people are now not only criticizing, they are attacking. You can criticize very badly, but and the people attacking churches now are young people. I mean, it's not a hidden secret. People can go online and find out that, in fact, it's easy now to become. You started from converting people from atheism to Islam.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sorry. Looks like some people are now going back. But they have their reasons.
Converting from Christianity to
atheism. So what's your take on that?
It's very sad because I think that the form of Christianity that is being practiced in Africa right now is pushing more people away from church. And so unfortunately, even from God, than we would like to see. Unfortunately, I don't believe that we have. I think it would be too harsh to say that we don't have churches in Africa anymore. We might have some remnant churches, some few ones that are hidden somewhere that are doing the right thing. But most of the churches that we see, that I come across, and those popular ones that everybody is saying all over Africa right now, for me, they are not Christian churches. They are just reformed, Babalawo shrines. They are just like paganistic organizations, but that are using the name of religion, of Christianity and Christ and Bible to, cajole people and to. Unfortunately, I think that most of these pastors, they have grown up in it, so they don't even know they are doing anything wrong. And those are the kind of things that are pushing people from Christianity into atheism.
Mayowa,
Yes, sir.
you got one or two questions?
Yes, I have got some questions.
Man of God?
Yes, I have got questions based on what you just, some of the things that you shared. The first one is about coming to Russia at a very young age. And you mentioned how you integrated with Europeans. And you mentioned also England as a case study where, you know, whenever you go to England, you find that the Nigerians that move there, they always move in the community and be in the community of Nigerians. I just want some light on that because there are many people that are going from Nigeria, young people especially, their parents are sending to Africa. And the general conversation is that don't forget where you're coming from, number one. Don't lose yourself. Don't be westernized. You still have a culture here, you have this here. So you must come back and be a certain way. Because I'll tell you a little bit about myself. When I remember when my parents wanted to send us to England, they had a conversation. They didn't know that I was listening actually, and my mom and dad were having the conversation that we shouldn't take Mayowa because she's still young. If we take her this early age, she's going to lose all the values and she's going to lose all the African traditions and values and things like that. And that stayed in my head. They did take me and they left me to stay in England, but it stayed in my head so much so that, you know, I didn't really know where I stood. So number one question is that how can people deal with this integration between, you know, Western world and anywhere they are, and also not lose their culture? Because I am sure that I've heard you said this before about not even speaking Yoruba, not being able to speak your local dialect or Nigerian. Some people would say, well, that's not good, that's really bad, you know, and that's wrong in some ways, almost like a sin altogether. So how do we balance this? Because I do see the value of what you have done and what he's brought you as well. But how do we balance that? Because I know there are young people there, and I know that even my cousins and my family, they struggle, their friends as well, they're struggling to keep, where do they stand? Where do we stand?
For example, not to spite OTUNBA here, and just with all...
Go ahead and do whatever you have to do.
Yeah, with all due respect. I was checking him out as well, and I was looking at their channel, the Heritage channel, then TV. So I was going through all the programs.
Which one are we talking about? I do appear on Ben TV.
Ben.
There are more.
I checked on the two.
I'm more of Heritage now.
Yeah, but I watched through a lot of Ben and a few of Heritage. But I saw one similar thing in the two of them, in those two television stations. I mean, if I'm watching from here in Ukraine, and from the perspective that I'm coming from, when I see those television stations, and I watched I was able to call you guys, say, come and watch these programs. I showed her all the programs and things that are happening in Ben TV and Heritage. I said, these people are not in England. You can't tell me they're in England. She said, oh, they're there. And they're talking as if they're in England, as if they're in Ajegule or Mushin or Shomolu. Because every problem that people are raising are African problems, Nigerian problems. But here in Ukraine, if you check my television programs, you'll be shocked. Not the live broadcast I'm doing for foreigners, but in Ukraine. When I'm in Ukraine, you will not even hear English first of all. You will not even see any black. You will not even see me there. Everything is just for the people. It's just like, you know. So what I'm saying is that how can people be living like this in England and say they are not learning anything much. They are never going to go back to develop Nigeria, because right there in the way those people that I see, those television stations, they think they are in England, but they are not. They would never be able to tell me. I would ask a few questions. For example, tell me the principles for road construction in England. They will not be able to tell me. They just drive their cars to work and come back. Number two question, tell me the reason why politicians in the lower or the upper chamber, how do they get elected? Many of them will just tell you some, elementary things, but they will not be able to. I said they will not be able to get elected. For example, I could say, okay, tell me how cities are built in England. Some of them might even be in real estate, but that's no city building. They're just selling and buying. So, people are surviving. People are just in England surviving. Then, to make it easier for them, they're in their communities. Of course, it's easier when you go to a place and you see your community is so easier. That is the easiest way to make it, because you see, you not go to Koreans if you go or to Chinese. You see your own people. I mean, they are just like you, but that is not paying the price. That is quick fix. That is instant gratification. That is cheap. That is easy way to live. But if I come to England, I tell you, 80% or 90% of my congregation will be white British people, because I know exactly how to do it, because I've done it before. I've done it here. And when you go to Germany, all our churches in Germany, we have 25 of them. There is maybe 1 or 2 of them that just have blacks. All of them are Germans, white. In America, when you go to a church in America, all of them, maybe 1 or 2 black people you'll see there. So when you go to Sweden, the same thing. You know, God has helped me to know that trick, that if you pay the hard price of penetration into the culture, getting to know the mindset of the people. But that's what I'm just telling you. That it depends on what you are pursuing. If I had been here just to make a living, like most people go to England, most of them just want to survive. I didn't come here to survive. I came here to study at first. Then I knew I was called to the people of the land, not to survive, not to just have a meeting and get offerings. You know, but if you just want to have a quick fix to get people, we have churches here in Ukraine here that are just black people. We have Redeem here, only black people there. We have Christ Embassy here, only black people there. No white person, maybe only the interpreter or something. No, maybe 1 or 2 married a black or white person. But no, they don't even. But the whole country here don't even know they exist. If you go to the street and ask what is Redeem Christian, they will not even know they exist. They will say, what is that? What? If you go and ask anybody what is Christian or Christ, they say, what? They never even know they exist. But if you ask something with Sandei Adelajah, everybody, because I'm in their culture. It's not just here. If you go to France, you know, and you see, go to television, you see Sandei Adelajah in their television. I didn't make program. They come here. They heard about me. The national television in France, Canal 5, Canal 2. They came to see me. They said, who is that black guy that is mixing with Europeans? And they come and do documentary on me. If you go to Germany, you will see German television, they will come here to make documentary on me. They are national television. If you go to Dutch, Holland, they come here to make documentary on me. Who is that black guy? They're just like, you know, that's able to, you know, integrate, yeah. So I think it's a thing that we need to share with our people. Because, for example, I was in Lagos one time, and I said, we were going from Lagos to Adelakota, and there were pastors with me. 3 pastors from America and 2 from England. So they were pastors. They were all pastors, my colleagues, my friends. And I was telling them that, see, Adelakota is a horrible city. Then we went to Ibadan. I said, this is a horrible city. It's easy to rebuild them. They said, what? What do you mean rebuild? I said, you know, the same thing with Lagos. You also, all these places are supposed to be torn down and rebuilt. They said, how can you rebuild? But people are living there. So I said, but you can make money even rebuilding these cities. I said, go to England, for example. It's not a new city. England has been there for over 1,000, or close to 1,000 years. But it's kept on being rebuilt. Fire, there was a time that fire engulfed the whole place, but you go there, so they are still standing. Everything, I mean, some of the buildings have been there for hundreds of years, but they're still standing, but they're still new, but they're being rebuilt. Everything is evolving. Go to Paris, even though the center is there, but everything is new. Everything is like new. They're being rebuilt. But if you go to Africa, so those cities are not even old compared to European cities. Those are just new cities in Africa, but they are looking like ancient, like horrible. Because they are not rebuilding them. So when I gave them the technology and the formula of how to rebuild Lagos and still make money out of it, and still give better living conditions to everybody, how to rebuild Adelakota, how to rebuild Ibadan, people say, Pastor, how do you know these things? I said, well, you are living in America. I don't know. It was when I got to where they are living, then I discovered that they are not living in America. All of them have churches, but they have not even visited America because they don't even have an idea. So when I went to America, I was the one who took these pastors with me to the UN. I was the one who took them to American Parliament. They don't even think of those things at all. They are just living. They are just surviving. So if your people, because of the mindset that your people give you, you will be limited. You will never rule over England. For example, when I go to England, I talk to my people. They are always telling me, "Oh, I'm the first black man to get that job. Oh, I'm the only black man in that place. I'm the only Nigerian in that office." I don't reason like that. If I go to England, I will say, I'm going to, nobody in England will be better than me in anything that I do. So if I want to do politics in England, for example, I am going to be Prime Minister, or I'm going to try to be Prime Minister. If I'm going to do business, for example, in England, I don't care if Richard Branson is there or not. I'm a friend of Richard Branson right now. I'm a friend of Livingston. Livingston used to be your longest serving mayor. I am his friend. I don't even live in England, but he's my friend. You know, Richard Branson is my friend. I don't even live in England, but I know them. You see, I don't even live there, but I know this guy. This is the kind of thing where I think. I don't even live there. I just visit a few times, but it's enough for me to do the right thing and get into the right circle and think with them, sit down with them and think on the national level of rulership, of reigning, of managing the earth. But when I go to England or America and I see my own people, it's like they're just biomasses. They're just some scums. That's why people will not even follow them to church. People will say there's nothing to learn because everybody is just surviving. But I would neglect the survival mentality, and I would approach it before. We go to first of all pay the price of adopting their understanding, their culture, their reasoning, their philosophy, their paradigm, their way of thinking, and then you've got to also pay the price of going to assimilate. The price of assimilation is why I forgot my Yoruba language. Now I'm just learning to regain my Yoruba language back. But that's the price of assimilation. But then I go to, when I go to England, I don't go to preach in black churches. But then when I begin to preach in white churches in England, people don't even know they have white churches like that. They know there might be somewhere there, but they don't even know. And when I'm in England, it is white people who are driving me. White people who are taking me everywhere to go to stores and things. And then when I was telling them, where are my people? I want to see my people. So they took me to Matthew's church. So I said, so they were telling me, Matthew has been here for years. He's doing a great job. They respect him. He has results, but he doesn't help us. He's not helping our country. I said, what do you mean he's not helping? Well, he's helping his own people. He's not helping our country. It's not relevant to us, to the country. It's not contributing.
Yes. And to be very honest with you, I want to take this on board. I would want to use this opportunity. You just showed me a typical man. Don't want to use black, red, or white. A person that has a vision, that can see, that can take good out of bad. We can fix, repair. I can see that also from some of your teachings. And do you have one more question?
Yes.
Or are you,
yes, I wanted to just extend that question because you've given us one practical way, many practical ways, but one thing is that we need to pay the price of integration. So you mentioned in your interview earlier that when OTUNBA asked about having this dream or being called about being a pastor and the vision that most people say that they've been called. This vision has nothing to do with your own strategy of you integrating with people, because a lot of people would always say, okay, it's because you had that vision that God sent you here in Ukraine. That's
if I don't pay the price, nothing happens.
Yes, if you don't pay the price. So I just want to highlight that because I don't want people to say, because you always teach us this, that we don't have to. There's no special breed for these things.
Everybody can do anything.
Yes. These are conscious decisions that you made. This is a decision you made that you knew that it would be better for the masses rather than just for you. And you mentioned survival. A lot of us go in places to survive. The mentality from Africa to England, when my parents is like, okay, we don't want them to grow up here because these things are changing in Africa. Let's send them to England. And that is also a survival mentality. So you've mentioned, number one is paying the price. Number two is not having that survival mentality. And number three, to highlight that, is that no, it's not pertaining to you. It's not because of your calling as a pastor. It is because it's the right. You don't want to just survive where you are. You want to integrate. You want to pay the price, and you want to do the right thing to be relevant where you are.
Yeah, same thing when I went to America. I mean, I have friends like T.D. Jakes, a friend, or Creflo Dollar is a friend. But when I go to see them, I mean, they are just excited that they are having crowd of people. I say, Okay, you are having crowd of people. It doesn't matter how many crowds we swallow. But look at America itself. You don't even control 1% of America. But you are just satisfied with what you have. You're on television. I said, what I want to come and do in America is to influence your culture. I want to be able to, you don't just do my own little thing here, and say, oh, I'm successful. People are satisfied at being successful. I'm not. I don't want to be successful. I'm not interested. Because to be successful, I don't need to be a preacher or anything. I'm not interested in being successful or famous. That one I can do without even God. I'm sorry to say. But influence, I now say I'm a person of vision, of understanding. The only reason why we live in America is to shape the society. Because there are human beings who are shaping the society. Because there are human beings who are shaping the culture. If I'm not shaping the culture, why am I even existing in the first place? The same thing with England. If I'm not shaping the culture, why am I here? I cannot live like that.
With this mindset, with this thinking, do you have anything to offer your country? Do you have any ambition? Do you have any agenda that you want to translate to help and change? Because it's an open secret that let me limit myself to Nigeria. What is going on in our country, politically, economically, socially, and everything like it's not the best for anybody that can take home or take on board. Because when you look at the millions of people of Nigerians that have to go through hard time, people are still struggling to have light, people are still struggling to have water, people are still struggling to have so many things, basic things of life. And when you look at it, you just said it, maybe consciously or unconsciously, when you look at where poverty is at best, is in Europe. But the system, the setting, the structure here had made it impossible for an average person to see that person living in Peckham in London.
But the question to me though is concerning Nigeria. Do I have any vision or what?
Yes, I want to bring it back. So the question I want to ask you is the way you have been, you try to your narrative is like you can do this. This thing can be done. It is not a rocket science. It's not difficult to do to achieve an optimum lifestyle for everybody. Do you have an ambition to do that, and how do you want to do it?
Up to 2 years ago, I never had an ambition to even go back to Africa. Maybe I was thinking I was going to be, changing the world, and maybe some of the people that I influence might go to Africa or Nigeria to change it. Not because I don't like Africa, I don't want to go back, just because I felt that my calling was for this part of the world. But 2 years ago, that all changed because I had, an encounter with the Lord. I didn't want to use that word, but anyway, I got an instruction that God was shifting my focus back to Africa, and basically God was telling me that my mission in Europe is done, my work is done here. I need to now go back and fix Africa. But for me, that's a wonderful challenge because I've been praying to God myself. I wept sometimes, and I would say, God, what if I could do 1% of what I've done in Ukraine, in Africa, I will help my people. I want to help my people. But God, why did you just bring me to Europe? I want to go back. So when God now gives me that, because I'm particular about not doing what I just want to do, but doing what is in line with what God had in plan for me. So now I started paying attention to Africa just since 2015, 2 years now. So what's my vision for Africa? Listen, now this is not, I'm talking not just to you, I'm talking to, not just to you, I'm talking to the whole world. I'm aware that this is going live on television. But you know what? If I go to Nigeria, by the grace of God, and which I will get there sooner or later, either this year, next year, 2 years, 5 years time, but anytime I get to Nigeria, if that country doesn't change in the next 5 years from the time I get to Nigeria, write me off. Say I'm not disregard me, lose, you are giving the permission to lose all the respect, all the honor. You are, in fact, you're giving the permission to call me all the names you want. I don't care how complicated things are there. By the grace of God, I believe that God has given me the training here in Europe for 30 years to be able to know exactly what to do. And for you to have an idea of my thinking for Nigeria, just think about the latest 2 books I just wrote. Can you believe it that anybody will write this kind of book for Nigeria, about Nigeria? how to make Nigeria the greatest country in the world. That's just to give you an idea of my thinking. That's my belief. Okay? I don't even have the president saying that. None of the presidents ever said that. That Nigeria will even become the greatest country in the world. It's like a fantasy, right? Or that I'm losing my mind. Okay, you check it out first. You read the book first. Okay, go to Amazon, get it, read it, and say if it's fantasy. But this is not the strategy of how to bring it to pass. But this is stimulation. This is just for you to know that it is possible. Now, the next other book that I wrote is, the last one, is how the Nigerian economy can overtake the American economy. That is absolute fallacy, isn't it? Well, that should tell you where my heart is and where my mind is, where my thoughts are. My thoughts is about that target. You know what? If you want to get to the moon, at least shoot to the stars. Is it? If you shoot to the stars, you will at least get to the moon or whatever. Yeah, you will at least get to the moon. Even if you don't get to the stars. So if I put the target, and this is a book. It's not just some statements. This is a 300-page book. So that means there is something behind what I'm saying. And by the time you read this book, you might as well become a believer. What I'm saying is that if I would go to Nigeria or any other place, I mean, I would not be going there as a politician. I'm not a politician. I'm known as a pastor, but being a pastor is not even my strength. It's my first calling, but I didn't stop there. I think my greatest gift is in national transformation and national development. I have the keys, I have some keys and principles, even without going into politics. And I don't plan to go into politics. I hope I will not after. But even without that, I still know what to add and contribute to Nigeria, to make Nigeria, at least a better off country than I admit it. And let me just tell you this one for sure. There is no way I will live in Nigeria for the next 10 years, or I will die without Nigeria becoming different. Now, everybody is saying, but politicians have said that can never happen. People have tried to do it, it never happened. Well, let's see. Because I've also done what no human being has done before. No human being has come from Africa to Europe to build a church of 25,000 people in one city, and then over 2,000 other churches all over the world. No human being has ever been a black man to build a church of 99% white person followership in Europe before, coming from Africa. No human being has come to the former Soviet Union to do it. No human being has done something similar to other things that I've done. But so I'm not afraid of saying that you are going to be the first one doing something that people say is impossible. Everything is impossible until somebody does it. And by the grace of God, we, our generation, not just me, but people who believe, we are going to see these things happen.
You know why I'm very excited? Because I remember very well in the 60s when one of the African presidents insisted that somebody must go to the moon.
And somebody says it's not possible.
So I'm believing, and I have no doubt in my mind that people, or not many of them, because I do a lot of criticism on television, even though you did not find that, you only see the area of whatever, but I quickly want to say this. I believe in you, and some of your work, most of your work in your books and the structure I've seen and heard about it, I have no doubt in my mind that you might be the Messiah Nigeria is looking for. You might have.
But Nigeria is looking for political Messiah. I'm not.
No. You have shown me. You have shown me now. You have shown me from this interview, from this encounter, that, and you have proven to me you've done it, and it can be done, and you have the idea, you have the vision. Because the problem we have been having is we have so many visionless leaders. They just want to be there as a get the power and do nothing with it, and that is all over Africa. But now time is always a problem.
No problem.
Yeah, because the time,
I have all the time.
Yeah. Well,
we have
No.
How many more minutes?
No. I think we should go ahead and split it if necessary.
Well, we might have to go on break, and then we'll go on break and come back. We might have to continue because the rule of the game is when the people behind the camera say 2 minutes, otherwise they cut this off and we will not be showing. So I want to say our viewers, do not go away. We're going to come back after a short break.